We have an extra special treat for you tonight. We are talking about Preacher Season 3, Episode 9, Schwanzkopf. And we have Karen Strassman. Dr. Slotnick herself is here. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to Afterbuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, Preacher fans. Welcome to the Afterbuzz TV Preacher After Show. We're talking about Season 3, Episode 9, Schwanzkopf. I am your host, Alana Jordan, and joining me today...
Hey everyone, this is Chauncey Robinson.
What's up, guys? Nate Miller here.
And we are so excited because Dr. Slotnick is here. Karen Strassman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
I love it so much. And it's perfect that it's the German episode that I butchered the title of while Perfect Dialects Coach is sitting next to me. But Schwanzkopf is the episode. It means dickhead in German.
Yes.
Fun fact, aptly titled. What did you guys think of this episode, kind of overall?
Everybody's looking at me. I liked it a lot. It's good to be back, first of all. I missed a few weeks. I missed you guys.
You, Nate.
Yeah, the show's been great also, but it was great. It was, I think this is my favorite episode of the season so far. It was just really enjoyable. Great pace. I had a few issues with some things, but I enjoyed it a lot. I think this show is really getting its stride, and I think this is a great penultimate episode too. Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I'm kind of missing my OT3 all being together. I'm kind of hoping that maybe in the season finale we get that with them, but it's really great their individual journeys that were going on. I always love watching Tulip, even with failed plans, do her thing. So I've been enjoying it.
I'm with you guys too. And Karen, it's awesome because one, you're an incredibly accomplished actress, but you're also a fan of Preacher.
Yes.
So it's really cool to get to have you here and to be able to watch the episode with you and talk about the episode with you. So I know you've been keeping up with this whole season. What do you feel about this episode and kind of the season overall?
Oh, God. I'm a big Tulip fan.
Yay!
And I'm a Featherstone fan too. Like I love when they're fighting. I love when they're up against each other.
I want a Dr. Slotnick Featherstone Tulip fight.
I would love that.
It'd be epic. I'd be so into it.
And I'm like sitting at the end of the episode feeling so bad for Cassidy.
Yeah.
I love Cassidy so much.
He's going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want him to get off of that pool table.
Yeah, he made a mistake, and now he's staked. I'm sorry, guys. But if you bear with us
Starting
through
off
the
strong.
episode and through the buzz, too, at the end of the show, we're going to have an exclusive interview with Karen as well. And also for our Preacher fans who read the comics, we will have a little segment at the end. For anybody who doesn't read the comics, we don't want to spoil anything during the show for you. So we're going to talk about all of the differences between the actual graphic novels and the show at the end so that we don't ruin it for anybody. But diving right into this episode, kind of talking about how we have our three main characters split up. It's kind of giving us our A, B, C storyline. So kicking us off, Jesse starts off the episode kind of where we left off with you finding the perfect combination, which ends up being this Tom Brady cocktail, which...
Tom Brady.
I don't know how you keep a straight face in these scenes with Humperdew when Tyson Ritter's going just full Humper. Like, how
Tyson,
was that hard for you?
He is awesome. You know, because he's so with all his stuff on. You know, his eye and his teeth has to hurt the teeth, and he can barely talk with them. And he's got that eye that sits in there that hurts. He can't see through it, and he's so handsome before he does all that stuff. I mean, he's a
we
rock
all remember
star.
All American Rejects.
Oh yeah.
Mumbles, he's so good. Yeah, it's hard to keep a straight face.
Did you have to catch yourself at any point, or
a little bit? Yeah, a little bit.
I absolutely loved your character in this too. And even though we see Jesse ultimately defeats the All-Father and kills him in one of the most ridiculous, and we'll talk again at the end of the episode too about some differences, but having him basically have Genesis take over and blow him up. Nate, I know this was kind of one of the logistical things that...
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to harp too much on it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a creative way to get out of the situation that they had written themselves into. I was really hoping that it wasn't just going to be like, oh, he gets on his knees and then takes the gun from him and then shoots him in the head. So I kind of like how that played out. I do think it was a little bit much. I think especially
on this show.
I do. Even and I say that, not to get too much in. We'll talk later about the comics, but as far as like tone of the comics, I think it's a little off color. The comics are very visceral, but not like Tarantino, blood spraying everywhere. It's like on everybody. Now there's intestines flying everywhere.
The issue
like
that you had was that it wasn't enough blood on Jesse, because for a man that size.
Because if you're and that's why I feel like if you're gonna do it that way, then the blood should be everywhere. It should like his insides are hanging from like the amount of pressure it would take to separate that.
But you're fine with him being injected with Serena Williams, Louis the 16th combination. Like that, you're like, no, totally on board.
He had the problem with a piece of intestine and the...
And then when they're like wrestling, and like that was, it was just, and they were cutting it clearly to like extend it, because that's the joke, and I get that. But for me, when I'm watching this show, that's like, okay, this is the Seth Rogen bit part. This is where you get the influence
Anytime
of
there's
him.
an actual literal fart, you know that Seth basically wrote that in.
Right? Yeah.
When he farts out the soul.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I enjoyed it. It just kind of caught me off guard. Yeah. And I was just like, man, that's really where we're going. And in the show with Hitler and like descendant of Jesus that is like Humperdinck, like there's a lot of lines being crossed and stuff. But I don't know. Maybe I just have a weak stomach.
I just like it because you were so taken aback
less.
that I got to say the word butthole with Karen Strassman at the same time. So for me, butthole. That's his soul just fell out of his butthole.
The Foley team. It not even just the slight farting noise, which then indicated to me like, oh no, here we go, and then led right into that. But also like when he's in there with Humperdew and you hear in the back room like the other Humperdews,
God, so good.
Great job to the sound, the Foley sound effect team. Fantastic.
It's always immersive, which is really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
the Ode to Joy playing, I thought was...
Yeah.
And the blood kind of did give me like Ash vs. Evil Dead kind of feeling. Like
right.
That's
what I mean. Like, it was just a little bit much, I think.
I get it.
But I do like that he stops and he does the whole, like, I should make you eat everything in here. Your head looks like a dick.
Yes, that was great. Yeah.
So I've been told.
And the no hats thing, too.
The no hats thing I thought was amazing, but it also was another one where logistically where you're like, where did this hat come from?
Yeah, the cowboy
this
hat.
Super
He just
nice
pulls it out of
white hat.
thin
Yeah,
air.
where I was like, what?
I also, before we move on from that, I really liked the montage too of the what the apocalypse plan kind of a thing. I thought that was really cool stylistically. This is on the other side of the scale of where I think this was perfectly in tone with the comic that we know from, that is so referential and about American culture and things like that. The just getting the different footage cut together, telling the story with the narration. I just think it was humorous, but also kind of ominous at the same time.
You mean the 1950s?
Right, exactly. The apocalypse, right.
Which makes sense because it's like the nuclear war threat and basically like what is... But I love that the signal of what's going to set it off is this video of Humperdew tap dancing that's going to be...
That's his... I mean, that's the one thing he can do, so... That's the one that's going to be like,
wow. The montage of the people who reject him, though, like Abraham Lincoln, just randomly. It's like, what? Why?
I didn't get it.
Just because it's absurd. It's just absurd as
I think
comedy.
It was just,
I like it. Very Adult
but
Swim.
Aesthetically pleasing.
Just
so well done.
The editing was great.
Artistically so pleasing.
Genius. And then it goes into the hair star list of his undesirables. Of what was it? It was the hipsters, the Presbyterians, the trade unionists.
Yeah, I love
the
that he
Danes.
named trade unionists because it's it's political, but it's also kind of like him toting this line, like dissenters, like people who want to have too much power, those darn workers, like also,
But it's also just kind of the arbitrary montage followed with the arbitrary montage that's kind of an allusion to the arbitrary nature of people wanting to wage wars on different people for reasons that aren't really for any real reason. So it's this absurdist comedy, but it's grounded in a political commentary.
Well, I also
About
like
the absurdity of
Of war
life.
in itself and the intrinsic idea of these different peoples wanting to fight each other for no real reason other than they fall into whatever demographic. So I thought that was pretty brilliantly done. I really, really liked it. And then just Jesse flat out being like, look, you're as batshit as the Allfather. Like, this is...
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and again, I want to come back to this later when we get to the comic stuff, but it was very important to me that they managed this relationship with Hairstar and Jesse as they're teaming up against the Allfather, as that he's still a bad guy. They're still opposed to each other. It's just there is something greater. And this is kind of a running theme along all of the Preacher stuff, is this kind of morally gray, you're right, but you're right from your perspective kind of a thing. Because from Hairstar's perspective, the Grail is going to save the world. They're there for humanity. Now, Allfather was crazy. He wanted to kill everybody. That's too much. I just want to kill a few people, right?
Yeah,
so the way that they played that scene out was also really interesting, and I'm really excited to see how they set that up now that obviously we see them kind of opposing each other again from a new vantage point. I'm really curious.
I
like
love
how
that
they played it
line,
out.
too, where he's like, you can't kill the Messiah. And he's like, it's our whole business model.
Yeah.
He's like, well, get another business.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
Like, he's...
And I kind of thought that was good with Jesse from like him having to make that decision, because he was, I mean, at one point, like in scene 2, it felt like he was maybe getting a little power hungry.
Yeah.
And so for him to come to this moment, that I think that showed a character shift too, because it's like, actually, no one should be in total power. I do still want Genesis, but no one should be in total power.
Right.
And I thought that was good that you kind of needed that scene, like you were saying, to see that shift with their relationship, also the shift with Jesse.
Yep, the
And
past few episodes have definitely made him more likable for me than he has been
me
in a
too.
long time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This episode, too, I think when they show where, Hairstar flat out says you're not a murderer, and then he's literally standing in the exploded bits of the man that he just murdered. He's like, well, you're not that kind of murderer.
Shades of Grey.
And we see him, or in this case, Shades of Red. I
set you up for that one.
We see him almost kill the Messiah, and then, God, just again, Tyson Ritter's acting in that scene, just hilarious. Humperdee? Just absurd. And him deciding, in true Jesse fashion, the genius of putting him in the tracksuit, sending him in with all of the clones, and then just releasing them into the world, which was a pretty hilarious scene, but also
Kudos to the extras that are like stumbling over, and one got run over by the car, and it was the one that was still just walking
Going
in
in
the
the revolving
the circle.
But
Yeah, the
it's
subtleties of
just
it.
the aesthetics. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite things about the show is just you can just do pause it, and every single shot just looks so cool. And the shots of them going down the escalator and it's just every single shot, like. I would watch it and sometimes just pause it, and it's just so aesthetically pleasing.
And just all of the details in the background, too, kind of talking about the same thing. I paused it when Jesse walked out, right when we see Hoover come back in and his, like, Rasta poncho that he's heading upstairs. But when Jesse walks out and he says, stop, you see the other Humperdoos in the background, like one of them trying to figure out, like, the trash can, and one of them just running into the wall, or they just didn't get very far. So I just love that all of those details are just what make this show so brilliant.
Real quick, I want to shout out to one of our users in the chat, Bryce23, who quoted from the show, "Don't kill the Messiah, which was a fantastic line.
Yes.
I think this is one of Hairstar's best episodes.
Yeah,
he
this is
really
definitely,
got his
really
full
enjoyed
range.
him.
Like when he walked in the room after the Allfather exploded,
Oh my God,
with
with
the
all that
bags
food,
and the
he went to go get
look
it.
on his face was just like, oh, perfect. Everything went according
Well
to plan.
done,
Like,
Messiah.
oh man, it was just
It's
I
so
loved it.
subtle, his acting too. It's just like, it's not like overt, but it's like
Yes.
you see those changes
Yeah,
when
his
it's
face
like
is
I'm a little
like
vulnerable
so
right
expressive.
now, but I'm not, and it's
Right.
like I'm conflicted. What do I do? And it's like it all shows.
He might be my
So
favorite
brilliant.
character on the show now, I think.
He's definitely
God,
like
I
Tulip is
love
still
it.
my top, but like he's up
he's
there
just
for me.
Well,
getting
now
so
that the no
enjoyable to watch.
hats rule, and then just seeing that montage of the wigs, the three like back to, oh my God, that was so well done. That is what I felt like tonally. Was like, that is
Yes.
completely
Spot
on target with the comics, and
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. And Featherstone just, where she's like, looks good, like the mutton chops, just brilliant. And I love too that this was how the reveal was done. Where we're like, how is Hoover going to
tell them?
this is going to be such a big moment? It's going to be such a big thing. And
A
he's
little bit of a
just
lifestyle
like,
change.
I know. I feel obligated to let you guys know I'm
now
a vampire.
Like,
The only thing that I will say is after that, it was odd to me when they pulled out and it showed like the whole world. It did like the kind of
it was like a
tropish-
really weird.
that
cut.
was odd to me. I was slightly confused by that one, but up until that point, I did think that it was
Yes.
really, really spot on to the comics, and it was still really funny. I really liked it, and kind of talking about Featherstone and how she came to be there. Tulip goes back to the bus stop where Featherstone. Also interesting, all of the music choices where she's singing the Onward Christian Soldiers and gets whipped to shut up, which.
that's her go-to when she thinks she's about to die.
Yeah.
She sung that before. It was
Which
just
is-
funny that Angel of Death Days was like,
That's
yeah,
right.
no.
Yeah, no.
Which
Not
is
this
so
time.
clever too, because then she can't protest, she can't say
Yeah.
anything when Tulip shows up. It's just brilliant that you're like, oh, did they plan that in advance? Is that why she sings?
I
Was
figured that. That's what
just the
happened.
whole setup for this moment. So good, brilliant. But then Tulip basically threatening to kick the Angel of Death's ass. To get her suitcase back,
I
or her
love
briefcase
Tulip.
back.
I
Yeah,
love
she's
that
just-
she is
yeah.
just not afraid of anything. It's
not.
just, oh God, I love that.
She's just badass. It's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, no. But then she chooses to do the right thing. And and when that happened, I wrote down like, Tulip did the right thing, sad face. Because like it totally didn't work for her again. And then like, she's having this conflict of, I'm a mess up, O'Hare's are, it's like, yeah, it was good to see her badass, but then you also see that they've been doing a very good job of showing her being so like badass, but also in those moments where she's doubting herself, so
Yeah,
that was
calling
interesting to
Sydney
see.
Satan's bitch, and then ultimately getting outed by Eugene.
Yeah.
That she's Tulip, which is like, Eugene, God,
That was
leave
a nice
the room,
reunion,
man.
though.
Like,
I think Jane-
was it a
I
nice
think-
reunion?
I think Eugene has a little.
That was another
I
one.
wanted to strangle Eugene.
I know, but I think he has a
Same.
little crush on her. It was so obvious on the
My-
bus and stuff. He was just
Yeah,
like,
but I
she's
didn't
the
think that was
best.
cute.
That's
I was like, Eugene, you idiot.
I
You
know.
just ruined
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
If she is saying, I don't know who Tulip O'Hare is, don't say it's you.
Why did it take so long for him to realize that she was there?
I don't think he was looking out the window.
Yeah.
Okay, well, a shot of him looking at something on the bus would have gone a long way, because they were out there talking about give me the case and I'm a tough guy and all this stuff for a long time. After they're sitting out there doing nothing, and you're telling me Eugene took all that time to look over and go, oh, hey, it's Tulip.
Maybe he was arguing with Hitler. They were arguing a lot.
Okay. All I'm saying
Suspension
is an
it would be
insert
nice
would have
for
gone
a
a
quick
long
cut, a
way.
quick
is
cut.
all I'm
I'll
I,
give
saying.
you
I don't
that.
know. I don't know. I thought it
I
worked.
feel like
'Cause it
there's
came
a
out of
lot
nowhere.
because there's so much that was happening this episode. I feel like it was kind of like a little bit of
It's just in that same box as the cowboy hat that magically comes out of nowhere. Like, it's great. It's great for the episode. It's punchy, but it just
Suspension of disbelief, man.
But there's so much that they do here that when they set stuff up and then pay it off. So then when you start paying stuff off that you haven't set up, I'm going to notice. That's all I'm saying.
legit. I did think it was pretty bummer though that Jody flat out even calls out Featherstone and is like, "Look, she was gonna save your ass out there," and she's like, "Whatever, she was gonna go to hell one way or the other." Like, oh,
perfect for
come
Featherstone's
on,
character.
come on! It is pretty spot on. Tulip though, genius, is and they're trying to find her way. This is one thing that they set up that was clever. You were saying that you were annoyed that they had just her window, not have the bar. But then they explained it
Right.
in this one as
Yeah,
that it's
because it was the emergency
emergency,
exit door. Yeah, right.
which you can't actually get out of. But we see her basically Hitler giving her the advice to shut up, and her again turning down Hitler's advice, which is probably a good move.
I think so.
You know, I feel like when Hitler's like,
It's
what I
usually a
would
safe
do, it's
bet.
like, you know, I'm good.
That
But
was an interesting dynamic too. Just I mean, it's Hitler, but also like Tulip's like this black woman, and like she's kind of like bad, you know, doing her thing, and then you have the Hitler. I mean, I know it's jokes, but it's also the idea of like this whole scenario right there. Like there's Hitler, the guy who wants to basically put up the Aryan race, and it's like Tulip's like, yeah, anyway, like I'm going to, I'm not stressing
And
over this
whatever.
right now. Like I'm, you know, and but it was always like those references that I always love about it.
yeah,
Hitler's
when
just
he's like,
floating
my
around.
advice is sit tight, and she's like, I don't sit tight.
Yeah, like I don't
Sitting tight
care
is
what
not an
you
option.
rate. I was like,
Shut up,
you
Hitler.
tell Hitler. Tell him to shut up. For all of us, girl.
I did love too the callback, the literal callback when Sydney's like, "How's your back?" to the Saint after he kind of referencing to when she whipped his back away.
You know what
hell.
callback I didn't appreciate was seeing Saints history flashback again. I am so sick
Just in case
of
you
it.
didn't get it
I don't need to
before.
see
In
it
case you haven't
ever
seen it.
again for the rest of my life. They showed it so much in season 2. Please never ever show it again. If anybody at this point that's watching the show doesn't know by now, they're not gonna
that
get it.
shot,
They're
though.
not
It's a
gonna
dope
pick
shot.
it up.
I'm
It
like,
is.
I'm into
I've
it.
just they spent so much time. I get it. There was crows and they ate his kid and he's angry about it. I get it. Show us new stuff. They've been showing us so much new
They
stuff.
did show us some new stuff here, but
Give
you
us
know
a
what?
flashback of his
This
back
is actually
with the metal
oh,
showing.
yeah.
That was
That
so
was-
cool.
yeah.
One
we saw
kind of
that a couple
subtle
episodes ago.
callback, though, that they had was when Jody hit something, which ultimately is when Featherstone leaves to go back to Hairstar because she's so delusional.
Oh my god. That line. He doesn't do well when he's without me for too long.
Times without me.
Wow,
It's
she's
like,
crazy.
okay, yeah, crazy town banana pants. But he hits a chicken, which you've seen Jesse, this kind of recurring chicken that is crossing the road.
I didn't even catch
That
that.
was a chicken.
Yes, it was
I
a
thought
chicken,
it was
'cause
like a
you see-
large livestock, like a cow. Or, it was a chicken.
It's a chicken because you hear first the clucking, and then when you see it, it's all of these feathers. And she's like, "What is that? Is that a paw? Is that a beak? What is that?" But you see all the feathers leading up, so it's a chicken, which we had seen that's what brings him back to
Full circle.
Grandma. Full circle is that he had killed the chicken and felt the guilt for it, and then this whole kind of chicken crossing the road analogy that they keep coming back to. So that I thought was absolutely brilliant. I was like, oh, that's a very subtle callback. Like you have to really like.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had
I
to
thought
run
it was
it
Yeah, I
like
back
a
didn't
the
even
big
first
piece of
time.
catch that.
Yeah, that is cool.
I really liked that. And then just the whole thing of Eugene having where everything ties together, where the lever doesn't work, but she's looking for a dime-like object, and he finds a piece of it, and he's saying, see, this is part of God's plan. Like, he's still so on board that he believes. I really, really love seeing that juxtaposed with Hitler talking about his Reichsmarshal from Circuit Works, Rick.
Who's gonna come save them?
Marshal Rick. I love seeing that too, where Hitler's just like, I don't understand why he's not here.
Like, give him the directions. Like, this is so weird. Renji in the
SS shock troops.
Renji in the chat, she actually puts up, he said, I felt uncomfortable hoping the neo-Nazis would help them escape. And that's going that same thing with those layers. It's like I hope the neo-Nazis save.
Yeah, it's a weird
them.
thing when
It's
you're like cheering on the neo-Nazis.
it's
You're like,
like,
but then immediately I
yay,
hope something
Tulip
bad
saved,
happens to
yeah.
them. Kind of the whole Hair Star thing where you're like, I hope that they help to achieve this objective, but then just go far, far away. I don't know. I loved it. I thought that it was pretty brilliant too when the Saint is talking to Sydney about, you know, like, hey, when she died, was this preacher with her? Did she die alone? And she's explaining she didn't die at all. Satan said, just go snag her off the street. There are no rules anymore. Like,
Also,
God's gone.
importantly, Eugene is not dead too.
And Eugene is not dead. And that's the big thing is that up until this point, he didn't know that. And now he knows that something's up with Eugene and whatever Eugene has been talking about, that it's a mistake. He's not supposed to be there, that's actually legit. And then cut to Tulip and her whole elaborate plan with the illustrated bust to
That was really
hell.
cool.
The
Yeah, I
illustration
like
is
that.
I love
fantastic.
that.
I like that.
Again, the aesthetic of that was just beautiful.
Absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant. And then it just failing, and then her coming back to when Eugene is saying, you know, you need to build a bomb to blow up this window, and her going and pissing off the Saint to get him to throw her and crack the window so that they can get out. Ultimately, Hitler jumps out, feet, you know, is about to jump out, yelling, you know, like, Evita Shane suckers, when the whole thing blows up because the neo-Nazis have swarmed in. This is going to be an interesting storyline going into next week as well.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where this goes. But I loved this whole setup. I thought this was absolutely brilliant, and just seeing Tulip, seeing this swastika on this tank
Exactly.
that's pulling up.
Like, can you be happy? Like, what's gonna happen? All right, okay, I'm gonna pass out.
And the guys in their full-on Nazi uniform guard too. Like, come on.
It's like, whose side can you be on? I mean,
Just
when in doubt, be on Tulip's
Circuit
side.
works,
but-
Rick,
going
man.
overboard. I figured they would be, you know, they would roll up in like a pickup truck or something, and they'd be like, you know,
Full
some
tank.
alt-right guys or something. Nope, full-on tank with
They're
a big
tanking
Nazi
it up.
symbol and.
But I love too the slow motion of them going everywhere, and then the illustrations on top of the bus. I just
That's
thought
the
the
only thing I
visuals
really
of that.
didn't
You
like.
didn't
I
like
thought it
that?
looked-
I
it
love
looked
the
so-
visuals of that.
It just looked so cheap and like.
Oh, I liked it.
It wasn't enough. It wasn't for me. It wasn't stylized enough for it to be like, whoa. It was like they couldn't decide if they wanted it to be like obvious that it's like a gimmick and a visual trick, or if it really is them flipping in the bus. I don't know. It wasn't.
I liked it.
I like if you took them out, just the bus slow mo shot was really cool, but them being added in, just not for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I hate to be a buzzkill.
I will say one thing that could have been
Bus kill?
No,
Karen, I love you
it's spreading.
much. Oh, that was
Quarantine.
the greatest moment.
Lock the doors.
Yes, yes, yes. I love it. I love it. Something else I love is how AfterBuzz has all of these channels and
That's
the way that they have them set up now.
Yes, which I'm going to tell you about right now. Hey, AfterBuzzers. Our network produces after shows for nearly all your favorite TV shows. From dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more, there's no network that works harder to service television fans. But we need your help. We're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channel, YouTube will suggest content that's tailor-made for you, and you'll help AfterBuzz continue to grow. And if you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be, because they're optional. So hit that subscribe button now for this channel and check out our other AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comment, and we'll thank you on air. For now, thanks for being the best fans and for helping us to be the ESPN of TV Talk.
Now, right now, Cass is in a pretty precarious situation because he's now figured out that Icarius is not who he says he is.
Yeah.
And we see them have their kind of confrontation here where Icarius is saying, look, these people have been dead long before they met me. Like, I'm doing them a favor. They want to play with life and death. They want to be a part of this. Fine. Let them play. Let them roll the dice. And Cass is saying, like, look, man, this is messed up. Like, you're just trying to get your fix. Getting your jollies and like flittering around the sky, killing these people. And Icarius' first instinct is to be like, yeah, man, it's really awesome. You got to do it. It's way fun. Like, hop on board.
I rolled my eyes so hard when he said that.
Really?
Like, yeah, the idea that a vampire is saying, "Oh, they're already dead."
Oh.
Like, wait, isn't that what people say to kill you? Like, what? I was like, wow,
part
I
I
can't believe
get.
you said that.
I thought you were saying like of him trying to convince
No,
Cass.
no. I understand. I understand what he was trying to do, but I just was like, I can't believe he phrased it that way.
Yeah.
It's just really weird to hear coming from a vampire himself. Yeah, it's very interesting. I kind of had a feeling they were going to go in this romance direction with them, and it felt kind of like they've been skirting it. Like, yeah, they're kind of romantically linked, but it's not entirely like that. They're just friends that just happen to like enjoy each other's company too. Whereas now, as it seems like he's full on like in love with Cassidy, and that's why it seems like he's taking this so badly and being so dramatic because he really feels like betrayed. Yeah,
Well, you know, vampires can go batshit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, I thought the romance angle, them inserting that, raised the stakes of when Cass.
The
Because
vampire
like one of the
stakes?
things he says is yes. And one of the things he says is the idea of, he's like, you can do this with me. We can have the happy ending. And Cassidy is just like, I'd rather be sad. And that's a really, I think, a pivotal thing with his character to say something like that. To say, even with everything, yeah, you could give me the happy ending, but no, it shows he kind of has a moral compass. Or he does. And, with whatever may happen in the future, that's even going to be a bigger, fall or whatnot. But I thought the fact that this betrayal happened, it was kind of sad because he had found someone that he thought he finally connected to, only to be betrayed again.
And I love that quote too, where he said, this is what you've been looking for all along: someone to accept you and your flaws. Just accept me and mine. Yeah. And it's like, well,
But
yours are a little bit more intense, buddy. Like, you're murdering people just like for your jollies. But unfortunately, when Cass goes to tell everybody this, Kevin is like, look, you killed Mr. Hoover. He's like, I didn't kill Mr. Hoover. I kept him from killing Mr. Hoover. Nobody's buying it. And I mean, I get what Akarius is saying, where he's like, who are you going to believe? This lost degenerate who has been kind of crap talking us this whole time, or me, who you feel has been here for you? So I do. I know, it's so
like,
heartbreaking.
you guys wake up.
Yeah. And seeing him get tent staked to the pool table is pretty intense. I did think it was hilarious though when he's like, "All right, open the drapes," and Kevin opens it. And it's like, oh, that's embarrassing.
Well, they're in a basement too, so
yeah.
I thought it was interesting when he said it'll give, Icarus was like, it would give me time to reflect or whatnot. So maybe in a way he still wants.
Well, he said it'll give Cass time to reflect.
Yeah.
It'll give me time to retrieve something.
To go get something.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like with that, there's this idea that maybe he's hoping maybe somewhere that Cass would like maybe change his mind or something.
I mean, Kevin's grandma does make a mean lasagna. Yeah, she's making lasagna.
But that moment when he looks at
by her.
But he's already told
I
everybody
thought she was innocent.
They follow him.
Well,
though.
I get what she.
If he said, "Oh, he's good
where...
at it, he's redeemed," he'd go back. I think he left it open to. It's like, why don't you reflect? You got some time here. I think. Love never dies. I don't know.
I want to know why Ikarius told them about him killing Hoover, and then they all just let him sleep until he decided to wake up and tell everybody what was going on. And then all of a sudden now he's on trial.
Yeah, I did think it was weird that nobody confronted him.
Hey, we all know
before.
that. We'll let him sleep. When he wakes up, we'll put him on trial and then
I did think it was
crucify
clever
him.
of him though to ask Mrs. Rosen, because I know it did feel kind of like a betrayal from her, but it makes sense because she believes it too.
Yeah.
Where she believes that Cass is the bad guy in this situation until, genius that he is, he's like, look, call up Lisa. You have everybody's numbers. Call up all these people. Yeah. Tell them I'm sorry. Knowing that she won't call if he says, look, Ikarius is a bad guy. What he's saying isn't true. So this is a pretty baller move. And we'll talk about in predictions where we feel like that will lead. But before we get into that, one last thing happens this episode. We see Grandma with TC, and TC saying, we haven't heard from Jody, we haven't heard from Jesse, and Grandma flat out says, look, I know Jesse's coming back because he's coming to kill me. Yeah. And then final shot is Jesse walking back to the Langell, I want to say mansion, but it's a little rundown. So the plantation. Mm-hmm. So any last thoughts on this episode before we roll into some predictions?
It was great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And once again, I think you saw the layers of the characters, which I always enjoy when you see that growth that we've had since season 2 with all of them. So, and Tulip is always badass. So.
I would have liked more Slotnick this episode, but I'll take what I can get.
That would have been
fun. Let's roll into just a couple minutes of predictions here, because they do set this episode up for us. Here we go.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So on the next week on, we see Ikarius talking, and he even says betrayal by a loved one cuts the most deep, and we see all the vampires attack. I'm thinking that it's probably going to be Mrs. Rosen who kind of lets the cat out of the bag, or in this case, the bat out of the bag, and let everybody know. And I think they're probably attacking Icarius. What do you guys think?
I think so.
That's probably a safe bet.
I hope so.
I hope so.
I mean, Cass isn't gonna die.
I'm more curious about what's going to happen to them after Icarius.
Yeah, post Icarius, who's going to be leading, what they're going to do. I'm with you. That's going to be interesting. Now, it's also going to be interesting to see Tulip, because we see this standoff with Nazi Rick and the Angel of Death and the Saint of Killers, which is just an interesting pairing, and this big explosion. What do you guys think? Any thoughts on this one? Do you?
I have some thoughts, but I want to wait till we get to the comic.
Okay.
Of what's gonna happen, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have Jesse, who does return, and kind of the grandma versus Jesse, you're going to hell, no, you're going to hell standoff.
Yeah, I've been saying for a couple episodes, I want her to die. And I hope that it's like really like, I don't know, hands coming out, pulling her down or something. I don't know. It has to be epic because she is an epic character. They did such a great job in making you hate her. So it's like, I need it to be awesome.
And it is the finale next week.
Like,
so
I need it to be
Next
awesome.
week is the finale.
it's
Yeah,
the finale
already.
next week. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Oh,
So it seems like they're going to probably go big or
Wow.
go home. I mean,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
season has flown by.
It has.
It's been such a great season that it seems like it's just gone like that. I can't even believe that next week is the finale. Ooh. Well, any last predictions?
Grandma has to die.
Take Grandma out.
it's hard to imagine her completely disappearing. you know?
That's the thing too, and I'm just like, she's so bad, but I'm just kind of like, do I really want her all next season? Because she's such a looming character too. So it's kind of like they needed to give her most of this season, but I feel like if she made it into next season, it might be the same thing.
I don't think they'll kill her though. I think they would
Really?
send her to hell.
Well, yeah,
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
with a
I mean,
chance to
kill-
return.
yeah,
Yeah. I
see
think there's
that.
definitely a
Oh
chance
yeah,
to
if
return,
she
which
dies,
I'm
I
hoping.
mean,
I hope they kill
Satan
her.
wants her, right?
goes away.
So
True.
I don't want too
You don't
many.
wanna deal with her?
I don't want too many drag along villains. That
I
we've
would
defeated
love,
that are
though.
coming back.
I mean, we don't see Slotnick disappear. We don't know what happens to
Yeah,
her. She's not
she's not
dead.
there
So
anymore.
Slotnick didn't die.
She didn't die. So
she's
if
working on the new business plan.
There you go. So I kind of want to roll into an interview with you, Karen. If Slotnick were alive and were to return, what would you like to see her plan be? Or
Wow.
if she were to have her own spin-off comic, her own little independent thing, what would you like to see her off doing while Jesse's off fighting Grandma?
Huh, that's a fun question. I think that she would team up with the Grail. I think that she would become a regular member of the Grail. I think she needs somebody to look up to, and I think
Yeah.
that she would be looking up to Pip. Pip, I see him as the actor. Like, being on set with all these people.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, Dominic and Pip and
Yeah.
Johnny. Yeah, and working with Featherstone and fighting. I think she would really do great, as a member of the Grail, bringing that crazy science mind.
I mean, she is kind of their resident mad scientist.
I love that her star doubted her because she was a woman, and it's like, no, she's this
That's-
badass
yeah.
scientist. He's
Yeah.
like, I just thought because she's like a woman that she went in. It's like, no, she has the master plan here. Like, she's one of the smartest people in the room.
And I like that she's small and funny looking, and I would love that she has some kind of brilliant, genius power that can kind of tip some scales along the way.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
see these mashups that she's creating to find the perfect balance, the good bad balance. Are there any that were cut that we didn't see? Or any scenes in there that we didn't get to see that...
There was one really fun moment that was in the script
Okay.
that we didn't get to shoot because we were just going overtime so much. But there was going to be a bunch of cuts where you saw Humperdew getting shot, getting the thing in him, and where he speaks, and he has the voice of God in him, and he speaks, but he doesn't have the right combination. I think it was the Serena Williams combination that wasn't quite right, or another one. And so where the voice of God goes in him, but it just doesn't quite work. And there's one where he says, "Go pee pee." And Dr. Slotnick, it's in the script that Dr. Slotnick looks down and she's peed herself. Which would have been so much fun.
Yeah.
You know, wardrobe was really happy we didn't have to.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, Karen, they cut the scene. Aren't you relieved?" I was like, "That would have been
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
But you would have gotten wet." I was like, "I know it would have been fun."
And speaking of peeing yourself, man, Tom Six, who made Human Centipede, makes some stuff that will really get at you. And you're going to be in the next project.
I'm in the Onania Club.
What can you tell
boy.
us about
I
the
can't
Onania
say
Club? Can you say
anything about
I know
it.
you're playing Barbara Dowles, who we're assuming is in the club, but you can't really say anything else, can you?
We are sworn to secrecy on this project. Tom, he releases his films in a very specific way, and so I can basically say, watch the trailer. I can say I'm really proud of this film, and it's bold and it's daring, and I think that there's a lot of commentary on the world we live in, and I would even say that it's a really disturbing, intense film, but I'd say it's no less disturbing than the reality that we live in, really.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm excited to see this one.
Yeah.
How was it for you too? Because I know that you've done so much voice acting work too. You've done some absolutely phenomenal things. How is it for you being on camera versus doing the voice work and the differences in your acting between the two?
Well, on camera is you're in everything. Like when you're doing voiceover, you have to imagine everything. Yeah. So you have to imagine you're in a forest. You have to imagine it's raining. You have to, even imagine the loud sounds around you. You're screaming. You have to imagine everything. You have to imagine you're cold. And when you're on set, everyth's there. You can look in the other people's eyes. You're working with people. You can touch your other actors, usually. And voiceover, very often we don't even get to play off the other people.
I feel like that would be the hard part for me.
Video games,
Yeah.
unless you're doing original animation where you have like the luck and pleasure to be in a studio with the main people that you're acting with, because sometimes they can't even get everybody in the cast in the same room,
Right.
where you get to play off each other. Most of the time, you go in there and the director will read the other characters' lines so you can hear them, and you're kind of playing off their, read off of a paper. Or you just, you're doing a video game and you have like line number 103, 562, and, they say, okay, this has just happened and you're doing this and this, and you have to imagine all of the other people who are around you. So you're
And
really
you've done
just in the booth with your imagination and usually a wonderful director, and that's it. So on camera is, they're both magical in different ways, but I think what I love about on camera is just you have everybody on set who is just a master at their profession. You have these amazing wardrobe designers. You have the people working for wardrobe. You have people who are passionate about makeup, who that is what they live for. You have people who have studied years and years of lighting. You have people who build these beautiful sets, and everybody pretty much does what they do because they love it. Yeah. Most people don't do it because they want to be rich, and it's just you work long hours, you're on set, it's just exhausting. So everybody comes, and there's a respect also that you come and do your job, but you have your place. And then as an actor, you've come into all of this magic that has been created, and you've been dressed in this wardrobe, you've been made up, you're sitting in these beautiful sets, and, the DP's going like this, and you're in a world of magic, and your job is to just add to it and drop in and, create another world that people can drop into. And for me, it's just one of the most magical places. People say, Karen, do you like to travel? And I do. Where would you most want to travel to? And my favorite place to travel is being on set.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, it definitely pays off because you were phenomenal in Preacher, and this has been an absolutely amazing season. Before we sign off, I know we're running out of time here, but I do want to give us the opportunity to talk a little bit about the differences between the comics and what we see on screen. We don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, so we're going to do a quick sign off here for anyone who doesn't want to spoil the comics. Where can we find you, Chauncey?
Hey everyone, you can find me on Twitter at Miss Chauncey KR.
Hey guys, you can find me everywhere you find people at Doglike Nate.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at Alana Jordan and on Instagram at that Alana Jordan girl.
You can find me everywhere at Karen Strassman, Twitter, Instagram, Karen Strassman fan page. I don't think anybody else has my name, so.
Perfect.
Cool.
Awesome. You're number one. So we'll give you guys the opportunity to say farewell if you don't want to be spoiled with any of the comics. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Spoiler alert!
All right.
Spoiler alert!
You've been warned.
Spoiler alert!
So the
Spoiler
big
alert.
thing this episode was the Allfather dying in a completely different
Yeah.
way, being exploded instead of falling and crushing Humperdew. What did you guys think about that?
Well, we know what Nate thought knows.
I mean, I liked from a story writing perspective, I like how they did it. I think the way that they've set up things, it made sense for them to do it that way as opposed to just doing it the way it is in the comics because that's the way it was in the comics. I think it fell in line with what they were doing. It's a similar thing of him dying kind of due to his own actions, which is a similar thing to how he dies in the comics. So I didn't have any problem with that. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, I feel like they're like switching a lot of things up. This is kind of like the Preacher characters in a new universe, but still with some of the same plot lines. I was kind of surprised that he died that episode, though. I thought maybe it would have been gone a little bit longer. I mean, it was just kind of like, yeah, he's been this ominous, like, force, and then it's like this moment. But I guess it makes sense that he would die through Genesis. So, I mean, it, like Nate was saying, like, it fell in line. But I guess I thought it would last a little bit, like, he would last a little longer.
How does he die in the comics?
He falls onto Humperdew and crushes Humperdew.
Yeah, he falls from... Is it a helicopter or a plane?
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a long fall. Yeah.
Maybe it was budget. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it
different.
made sense though. I mean, there's a lot of things that are different.
Yeah.
But they're doing a great job of keeping things in the same vein. And that's why I'm not surprised that he died because pacing wise, we already got a substantial amount of him. I think than what we get in the comics. So I think pacing wise, it was good for him to be in, do his thing, and get out. Again, I'm really enjoying the quickness of the pace and then progressing through plot lines.
Am I remembering it wrong? The Allfather in the comics, isn't he related to Jesse in some way? He's his like uncle or something.
Is he? I don't
Really?
remember that.
Yeah.
I don't remember that either. Not to say that you're wrong, but I don't remember.
I just don't remember that. But
I think he was related to himself. Somebody was related to Jesse. They ended up being his uncle, and that's why I thought that maybe they'd keep it around a little longer to reveal that in some way.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm gonna have to do my research. He does have like an uncle or somebody.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I was trying to remember if it was Allfather.
I couldn't
or not.
remember
I
who
don't
it
think
was.
so.
I'm gonna do Google.
Now, Acarius has been just completely different
Yeah.
this season. I think we're winding that one up here, but it's interesting to see.
Well, we kind of like. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the comics, the cult is kind of like already established, but it's because of something that he did in the past, where like he saved them. So it's kind of like we're seeing the start of that. We're seeing it in the reverse order from where we saw it in the comics, where in the comics, by the time we meet them, there's already this cult around Cassidy, and they're like in love with him, and he's like, "Oh my God, stop!" Whereas in the show, he's just being introduced to them, and now he's presumably saving them from Acarius. So I'm thinking that he's going to save them, and then be like, "All right, cool, I'm leaving," and they're gonna be like, "No, you have to be our new vampire daddy," and
That's
he's gonna
what
be
I'm
like,
thinking.
"Nah, cool," and then they're gonna be following him around next season,
Vampire daddy,
for some
new band
hijinks
name.
or whatever. So I really liked, especially seeing how it's playing out now. I'm like, this is really cool. This is a cool way to still get this story in there, because this story was only really told in like a spin-off, so it wasn't even really a part of the main Preacher comics.
Yeah, it happened before, and then they kind of come back.
Right, they come back to it.
And I thought, what I said earlier with Cass and like showing his moral compass in this episode is, I think that's significant because of the fact of what does happen in the comics, which is kind of this idea of him manipulating Tulip eventually. I don't know if they're going to do it. I mean, I know there's the debate if he's going to end up doing it in the show itself, but it's always that question because he still has the love potion and whatnot. Like, is he going to go down that route? Because they built up him having such a strong moral center, which I don't know if they built up as much in the comic in that way. So I think it'll be a bigger fall if it happens. I think it would be great drama, but I'm also kind of like, I kind of hope they don't do it.
Yeah, we need some good motivation, especially seeing how he interacted with Lisa and all that stuff. Like, it seems weird to build him that way.
And then be manipulative to Tulip, a woman he really does love.
Last thing I want to cover is the whole Saint thing with him. So in the comics, Saint kills the devil. Yeah. So him now knowing that God is gone and the rules are all bonkers and not people that aren't dead are going to hell, that was huge.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big impetus for what's going to come. I think
so. Again, if you don't want prediction that might be spoilers, cover your ears. Pretty sure something, because obviously Jesse's not going to walk in and be like, all right, grandma, die, and then end of episode. Right? Like, she knows he's coming. She has to have something. She knows he's going to have the word back, so she's got to have some type of fail-safe thing. And then the devil's going to show up and be like, no, you're going to hell. And then Saint's going to show up and be like, no, actually, I'm going to kill you, or he's going to kill the Angel of Death or something. And then he's going to end up saving them. And then they're going to have to make some type of deal, because that is in the comics too. And Jesse has the word now, so he could just command the Saint, theoretically. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to play. I'm really excited for this finale. I think they did a great job of, especially after season 2, kind of wrangling everything together and pulling story stuff and fitting it in a way that's cohesive. They have done a great job. Like, this is what Walking Dead should have done like 5 seasons ago when they really started to get off track from the comics. Yeah.
He had to put that in there.
Yeah, I've been reading Walking Dead since it debuted, and it is one of the best American stories.
I'll give you that.
And
it's AMC. It's
tore it apart on television.
It's okay.
I am definitely loving everything that's happening this season with Preacher, though.
Yes.
I'm very excited for finale, and I'm so excited that you were here to join us.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
This is a
fantastic
great show,
guest.
you guys. Thank you for having me.
And it's been so much fun having you on. Yes, please come back, because you're always doing so much awesome stuff, too. So one more time, where can everybody find you and keep up with all of your stuff?
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Karen Strassman fan page at Karen Strassman, anywhere with my name. And thanks, you guys. Thanks so much.
Of course.
And they can find you guys
once again on Twitter at Miss Chauncey KR.
Everywhere, Dog Like Nate.
And you can find me on Twitter at Alana Jordan, on Instagram at That Alana Jordan Girl, and you can find us all here at Afterbuzz TV. We'll see you guys next week for the finale. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Afterbuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the Afterbuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterbuzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of Afterbuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.